You meet someone new. They say all the right things. Confident, friendly, polite. But something in you hesitates. Before you've even processed a single word, your brain has already made a decision about them. It happened in a tenth of a second, faster than thought, faster than language, and it happened before you were even aware it was happening. This is not intuition. This is not magic. This is one of the oldest systems in the human brain, still running, still in charge, whether you like it or not. Here's the strange part. You didn't learn this skill. You didn't practice it. You were built with it, already installed. Psychologists call it thin slicing, the brain's ability to judge a person's trustworthiness from nothing more than a glance. Researcher Alexander Todorov spent years studying this at Princeton. He showed people faces for less than a second, just a flash, long enough to register, not long enough to think. And still, people made confident judgments. Trustworthy, dangerous, competent, weak. Every time, the answers were remarkably consistent across different viewers, different ages, different backgrounds. Same snap verdict. Your conscious mind wasn't in the room for that decision. Something older was. To understand why, you have to go back, not years, not centuries, tens of thousands of years, to a world where a stranger's face was often the only information you had and the only information you'd get before it mattered. Imagine you're standing at the edge of your camp. A figure appears at the tree line. You don't know their name. You don't know their intentions. You have seconds, maybe less, to decide threat or not. There was no time for analysis, no time for a background check. Evolution solved this problem the only way it could, by building a fast, automatic system that reads a face and produces a gut answer before language even loads. This wasn't unique to humans either. Other primates appear to show similar wiring. Chimpanzees and other social primates seem to make rapid dominance and trust judgments from faces within their own groups, using many of the same visual cues: brow position, mouth shape, gaze direction. The system may be old enough that it predates language itself, inherited from ancestors who navigated social hierarchies long before anyone could ask a single question out loud. Which means the tool you're using right now to size up a stranger is, in evolutionary terms, ancient beyond imagining. It was already fully formed before your species had a word for trust. Ancient thinkers noticed the pattern too, long before anyone called it thin slicing. In the 4th century BCE, a text from Aristotle's school, known as the Physiognomonica, argued that character could be read directly off a face. A heavy brow meant a brooding temper. A sharp nose meant sharp thinking. Small eyes meant a small mind. The details were wrong, sometimes wildly so, but they were trying to build a formal system on top of something the brain was already doing on its own. The idea proved dangerously durable. Physiognomy resurfaced again and again over the centuries, dressed up as science, used to justify prejudice against entire groups of people based on nothing more than bone structure. The pseudoscience deserved to die. The instinct underneath it never did. It's still running in you, right now, every time you meet someone new. Speed mattered more than precision. A wrong guess about a friendly stranger cost you an awkward interaction. A wrong guess about a dangerous one could cost you your life. So your ancestors who read faces fast, even imperfectly, survived more often than those who waited to be sure. That bias didn't disappear. It became you. Todorov's research found something specific your brain is scanning for. 2 things, mostly. Trustworthiness. Does this face look warm or hostile? And dominance. Does this face look capable of harming me or not? Neither of these is really about the person in front of you. They're about pattern matching. Your brain is comparing this new face to every face it has ever filed under safe and every face it has filed under danger. That's the part that should unsettle you a little. The face isn't being read for truth. It's being read for resemblance. A slightly downturned mouth, a particular brow shape, a jawline that reminds your brain, on some buried level, of someone who once hurt you or someone who once helped you. None of it has to be accurate. It only has to be fast. This is why first impressions feel so certain and so immediate, and why they're wrong so often. You're not perceiving reality. You're running a shortcut. And the shortcut is oddly specific. Todorov's team found that faces with slightly raised eyebrows and a hint of a smile tend to score as more trustworthy, almost regardless of the person's actual character. Faces with lowered brows and thin lips score as less trustworthy, even on people who have done nothing untrustworthy in their lives. Think about what that means. A resting expression, something a person didn't choose, didn't perform, was simply born with, can quietly shape whether strangers hire them, date them, believe them, or cross the street to avoid them. None of it is fair. All of it is happening constantly to everyone, including you. Later brain imaging work has pointed to the amygdala, the almond-shaped structure buried deep in your brain that processes fear and threat detection, becoming active during these snap judgments. It doesn't wait for permission from your reasoning mind. It fires first and explains itself later, if it explains itself at all. Your reasoning brain, the part you think of as you, often shows up after the verdict has already been reached. It doesn't decide, it rationalizes. You feel like you're thinking. Mostly, you're confirming. Here's where it gets even stranger. This system doesn't just judge strangers, it overrides words. Psychologist Albert Mehrabian's early communication research is often stretched and misquoted online, turned into a rule that claims words barely matter at all in communication. That version isn't accurate. But the underlying pattern his and later work pointed toward has held up in a narrower, more honest form. When your face and your words disagree, people trust the face. Someone tells you, "I'm not upset," through clenched teeth and a tight jaw. Your conscious mind hears the sentence. Some older part of you has already logged the mismatch, and it doesn't forget it. You call this a gut feeling. It's not mystical. It's your face-reading system quietly overruling your language processing system, the way it's done for longer than language has existed. This explains something you've probably felt, but never named. You can meet someone who says every correct thing, who checks every box, and still walk away uneasy. You can't point to a sentence that was wrong. Nothing they said was false. But your face-reading system wasn't listening to sentences. It was reading structure. Micro-expressions lasting a fraction of a second, a flicker of contempt, a flash of fear, a real smile versus a performed one, the kind that never quite reaches the eyes. Psychologist Paul Ekman spent decades cataloging these micro-expressions and argued that several of them show up consistently across cultures. A genuine smile engages muscles around the eyes that a posed one typically doesn't. Most people can't fake it convincingly. Most people can't consciously read it either. But something in you can. Something in you always could. There's a reason for that gap, and it isn't mystical either. Conscious attention is slow and narrow. It can hold one thought at a time, follow one sentence at a time. The face-reading system is none of those things. It runs in parallel, constantly, on every face in view, whether or not you're paying attention to it. That's why a poker player can seem off to you in a way you can't explain. That's why a salesperson can say everything right and still leave you cold. Your slow mind heard a clean pitch. Your fast mind clocked a flicker your slow mind never even registered. This is worth sitting with for a moment because it reframes something you thought you understood about trust. You assumed trust was built through conversation, through time, through evidence. Some of it is. But the first layer of trust, or its absence, is decided before a single word is exchanged, by a system so old it predates the words themselves. Which raises the uncomfortable question. How many decisions in your life have been shaped by a face-reading verdict you never consciously reached? A job interview, a first date, a stranger on the street who you crossed to avoid for reasons you couldn't articulate. You called it instinct. It was ancient pattern matching, running silently underneath the version of you that talks. Here's the twist your ancestors never had to face. Their face-reading system evolved for a small world. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar's estimate puts the size of a typical ancestral social circle at around 150 people, a lifetime's worth of faces, mostly seen in person, mostly seen more than once. You live in a world of thousands of faces a week. Photographs, videos, strangers on screens, judged in half a second and never seen again. The system wasn't built for this volume. It fires anyway, every time, on every face, whether or not the stakes are real. Consider what this does at scale. A hiring manager scrolls past 100 resume photos. A voter glances at a candidate's face for half a second before hearing a single policy. Researchers studying political elections have found that snap judgments of a candidate's face, made in under a second with no other information, predict election outcomes at rates far better than chance. People aren't voting on policy in that moment. They're voting on a threat detection system built for a world of 150 faces. Now asked to judge a stranger it will never actually meet. You are running a Stone Age threat detector on a world of infinite strangers, and it never asks you first. So the next time you meet someone and something in you hesitates before they've finished a single sentence, don't dismiss it as irrational. It isn't coming from nowhere. It's coming from every ancestor who ever stood at the edge of a camp, watching a stranger walk out of the trees, deciding in an instant whether to run. You're still standing at that tree line. You just don't call it that anymore. You call it a feeling. It's actually a memory older than words, and it's still deciding, quietly, whether it trusts the face in front of you before you've trusted a single thing it said.